Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I'm trying to start a show at 5 every day. This one got a little bit away from me. I was working on another video. The other woman on Sam Cedar, you call Sam Cedar's work wife, attacked Jimmy Dore in somewhat of a surly, somewhat of a dickish way. I made somewhat of a response video, so there's that. So first of all, I want to thank all my patrons. I want to thank the people who subscribe, who share my vids. I absolutely appreciate it. Even if you didn't like my vids, I still appreciate the fact that you took time to look at it. There was something else I wanted to say on this. Man, absolutely left my mind space. Oh, I know what it was. So, Cenk Progressive, I thought she was supposed to be here tonight. I thought. I tried to contact her. I haven't heard anything else from her on this point. So, whenever we get the opportunity to talk, I will see if I can get her on the show. The second part, and the part that's... Let me fix this. Yeah, that's better. So, interview with Cal and Cenk. There's other stuff. There are other stories that I want to do tonight, but I definitely want to... This was one that I wanted, that stood out, that I wanted to do. Cal makes a point in that conversation. They're talking about Russiagate. This idea of, Trump and Russia working together in this way. And for the most of the conversation, Cenk doesn't necessarily focus on that angle. But eventually he gets around to, and there's evidence that they're working together. And Cal kind of makes the point that, yeah, that's been pulled back. What do you mean pulled back? It's just been a little bit boisterous on this point. Cal is right, by the way. It's like, wrong again, Bob. Yeah, Cal is right. I'm going to go over the story of why Cal is right. This was in an intercept. Beyond this point, I kind of want to explain why I'm focusing on Uygur, at least in this, for the interviews, for that particular interview with Cal. This is, if you notice, I haven't attacked Uygur in this. This has purely been Uygur's position, this Russiagate position. If I don't care if they attack Donald Trump. Have fun. Do God's work. You can attack Trump. Can we please leave out Russia? Like, can we please leave out the nuclear power in this conversation, like in this mix? You haven't proven that these things work in tandem. And there is a political motivated reason why one of the parties is doing this. But they're doing this in this kind of hawkish way where they're positioning us against a nuclear force. This is, like, immensely problematic. I can't get across how dangerous this is. Like, at the exact same time that him and his network is downplaying Russia's or the United States' attack in Syria. The fact that we're in Syria in the first place, illegally. Syria is not on the border of fucking North Carolina. It's in a completely different country in a completely different area of the world. We should not be there. We are there illegally. Russia has allied itself with Syria. End of the story. We go home. We shouldn't have anything to do with it. We were there from an illegal context. Positioning yourself on the left, pushing democratic propaganda on this front is problematic. It is immensely problematic. And downplaying bombings in Syria that the United States was doing. And mind you, at the moment or the day after he downplays it, the United States kill Syrian and apparently even Russian forces. All I'm saying is, this is immensely problematic. So yes, I'm having to go at his position on this front because I think his position positions us in a way that puts us in conflict with a nuclear power nation. That's why Uygur is appearing in my chats or in my conversations more recently. I would prefer his network not be on this Trump-Russia bandwagon, particularly when you're talking about this was supposed to be a lefty network. I would prefer other networks not focus so much on this Trump and Russia bandwagon. It's one thing if you nail that down and you prove that as a flat fact. Then fair enough. Fair enough. And even if you're on that Trump and Russian bandwagon, are there not things that we need to take place in this country itself to deal with that before we get to that point? Before saying we need to go fight another enemy, we need to create this kind of other enemy. Are there things that we need to do in our country to fix our own affairs? How does Russia all of a sudden play this major role into the things that we need to do to fix the things that go on in the United States? What about regular ballots? What about regular ballots? Like, I can think of so many other things that need to be fixed in the United States from the standpoint of elections, from the standpoint of just the U.S. politics. Of those things, Russia is not a part of them. I'm sorry, Russia's not a part of them. Let's listen to the conversation itself. And after you listen to the conversation, we can talk about why Cenk is massively wrong on this. Let's take a listen.
There's a server in Pennsylvania, in the middle of Pennsylvania, that's Donald Trump's server. All the top cybersecurity experts in the world say it keeps getting pinged by Russia. 80% of the pings are from Russia. You know who's pinging it? Alpha Bank. They don't know what the pings are, but that ain't no coincidence.
I think that story was retracted.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by retracted.
Well, I'll send you the article. There's an article in The Intercept which lists that among articles that have been, they said, "Ooh, we messed up this one. This isn't
okay,
real."
I'll take a look at it. I'll read it. But last I saw, I don't see any reason. They seem to have excellent evidence. The other 18% of the pings, by the way, were coming from the DeVos family. Another wild coincidence.
That's awesome. That's awesome. He's like completely disbelieving of this. Like just right out the gate. That's amazing. By the way, this guy, let's see, who was his name? Gordon DeMimac. I could not, when I watched, that's his channel's name. Well, I watched Cenk Uygur do this, and I thought to myself, I need to find that article. And I wrote down the article itself. Like, I wrote down the name of what they were talking about at the time I watched it. You could see me, well, you probably couldn't see me in the video doing it because it's off the screen. But I'm writing this stuff down as Cal is saying, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, Cal said this. And the moment that they said that, and Cenk, he was like, oh, no, that's crazy talk. I don't know what you're talking about. This looked good to me. Well, yes, it looked good to you because you have a very specific perspective of this stuff. Donald Trump is guilty. That's your perspective. Donald Trump is guilty of this. So anything that's fed to me is put through that filter of Donald Trump is guilty. Do you think Cal is lying to you? Like, honestly, do you believe Cal is lying to you when Cal is saying this? Do you believe Cal is lying to you? I think the difference between you two on this is whether Trump is guilty or not is kind of besides the point to Cal because he looks at it as there's nothing you can do about it. And the hysteria is making us less safe. And beyond being besides the point, you have not proven your case. You're telling him something, and he's saying, yes, Cenk, I know exactly what you're saying to me, but this has been debunked. So I'm going to show you the article that debunks it. I just, look, if Cenk is going after Trump, fine, I get it. I just don't like this line of attack, going after him, especially when it's just factually true. The people who are in the know on this, people who absolutely want, like Adam Schiff, sleazy Adam Schiff, when you ask him outright, Tucker Carlson eviscerated Adam Schiff. And that blows me away that I'm adding those words together in the first place of Tucker Carlson. Yeah. But he eviscerated him. Adam Schiff could not look at the camera and say, yes, I know as a flat fact that Russia has something to do with this. And if he could not do that, meaning this is the man of all the people in the world that want that to be true, Adam Schiff is probably the guy with that much oomph in him over everyone else. And even he cannot bring himself to say something that outlandish. It's one thing, Cenk, if you're right. If you know absolutely that you're right. But you don't know absolutely that you're right. And your network, people on the left who push this, push us in a way that A, incentivizes Donald Trump to take policies that are more hawkish in Syria. Because if he pulled his troops back, the first response from people like you would be like, oh my God, right there. He's being less hawkish on Syria, and because he's being less hawkish on Syria, it's because of Vladimir Putin. Is that really the incentive you want to create? Is that the incentive you want to create? If Donald Trump pulls troops back from Syria, good. I'm glad Donald Trump pulled the troops back from Syria. To me, that's all that matters. I don't care why. I care that he did it. I care that he did it. And again, I kind of make this point. You haven't made your case. So all the stuff becomes moot. Let's take a look at the article itself. Let's see. Flip. There we are. So this is the Intercept article that's talking about what Cenk is talking about right there in that part that Cenk said. This is the article. Inconsistencies is a component of the article that essentially eviscerates the thing that Cenk just said. And look, I don't blame Cenk on this at all. Nobody is perfect. I'm pretty sure at some point I would say something that gets, retracted later on. That's not, I think, the issue here. The issue here more so is you want this to be true so bad. So bad. You're like Joy Behar. When they say they found something on Trump, she's like, yes! Yes! Like she's flipping out on her show. She's absolutely flipping out. We got something on the President of the United States to fulfill our paradigm of the world. Yes. We got him. Oh, no, we didn't. We didn't. Oh, fuck. I just made an ass of myself, didn't I? Yes, you did. Yes, you did. All I'm saying here, Cenk, is Cal is right. There are massive inconsistencies to this. You should not just blow them off. You shouldn't just blow them off that way when he's telling you something that's actually true. Let's take a look at the article. Putting aside how little there is actually to read in the tea leaves, the information we reviewed was filled with inconsistencies and vagaries. The Intercept and other outlets were presented with 3 documents, an academia-style white paper about the server, an analysis of that white paper, and a sprawling dossier on Alphabet. The author of the analysis paper refused to comment on record or allow his name to be published. He was putting this out from the shadows. I love it. Both tea leaves and the analysis author said, let's make this look so weird here because of the lights. Analysts say they did not know who wrote the other documents. It would not say how they obtained them. Professor L. John Camp, an esteemed computer scientist, quoted at length in the state piece and also interviewed by the Intercept, said she knew the author of the Alphabank document, compiled it with exhaustive detail of a political opposition team, not a university researcher, but would not reveal who it was. Tea Leaves himself told the Intercept that he had to keep the identity and the methods secret because I run a cybersecurity company and I do not want DDoS, and never have we been DDoS, nor do I want other attention. Wait a minute, it sounds so weird. Let me try this again. Both tea leaves and analysis authors said they did not know who wrote the other document and would not say how they obtained them. Professor L. John Camp, an esteemed computer scientist, quoted at length in a Slate piece and also interviewed by the Intercept, said she knew the author of the Alphabank document, compiled with the exhaustive detail of a political opposition team, not a university researcher, but would not reveal who it was. Tea Leaves himself told the Intercept he had to keep the identity and methods secret because I run a computer cyber company and I do not want DDoS. And never have we been DDoS, nor do I want other attention. Looking at the documents themselves provided further oddities and errors. The white people contends following. The Spectrum Health IP address is a TOR exit node used exclusively by Alphabank. Alphabank Communications entered a Tor node somewhere in the world, and those communications exit, presumably untraceable at Spectrum Health. There is absolutely no reason why Spectrum would want Tor exit node on its system. This is simply untrue and easy to disprove using public available information. The Intercept confirmed the IP addresses in question and all other IP addresses on Spectrum Health's network did not host a TOR node during the time period. On Tea Leaves' WordPress site, he claimed that only 2 networks resolved the Mail1 Trump email hosts. This is contradicted by the very works of analysis furnished by Tea Leaves' collaborators. The author of the white paper found that at least 19 IP addresses, all belonging to different networks, excerpts from the 2 that belong to Alphabank, and looked up Trump's server. And these are only the 19 the author were able to observe in a short time period. It can't be ruled out that there were many more, which quickly deflates the portrait of a shady Russian back channel. The light is reflecting off the screen, so it's making this more difficult to read. Sorry, guys. But I'm including this at the bottom so you can read it for yourself. The white paper included DNS lookup data, but not nearly enough to reproduce the results. Rather than the IP addresses expected to see, the data only included 3, and the DNS lookups were not for the same time period that the paper described. Tea Leaves published a different set of data on the dark web, which we also looked at. With this set of data only included a total of 4 IP addresses. When we pressed Tea Leaves for the complete set of data so we could attempt to reproduce the analysis, he gave us a new, more comprehensive set of data, but still that included a total of only 8 IP addresses, and it was missing the IP addresses belonging to the VPN server in Utah that accounted for a significant portion of the DNS lookups described in the paper. What percentage of DNS lookups for trunk email server could Tea Leaves and his colleagues observe out of all DNS lookups for that server on the whole internet? How can they be sure that the majority of DNS lookups for Trump's mail server originated from Alpha Bank when much of the data they collected didn't even include DNS lookups from IPSs described in their own paper? What's their margin of error? None of the analysis that we and other journalists obtained answered these questions. Although the Slate article mentioned Occam's razor, Foyers never actually take seriously the simplest plausible explanation for all of this. The Trump organization owns a bunch of expensive, obnoxious spam servers that churn out marketing emails for its expensive, obnoxious hotels. Spectrum Health, an entity in its own story whose presence never made any sense, provided the following statement. Our experts have conducted a detailed analysis of the alleged internet traffic and did not find any evidence that it included an actual communications between Spectrum Health and Alpha Bank or any of the Trump organizations. While we did find a small number of incoming spam market emails, they originated from the digital marketing company Cedron, advertising Trump hotels. Spectrum also provided us with something not even Tea Leaves could, a copy of an email sent from the mail.trump.email server. Did it contain acrylic cipher? Not quite. Spectrum was kind enough to include the email header data, which shows its origin. Look, what they're saying here, and this is a lot of technical jargon, I'm sorry. Again, you can read the whole thing yourself. These guys are saying, and they came out saying, look, Trump is communicating with Russia. They're back and forth. Look at all these messages, back and forth. This stuff is back and forth. This is somewhat of a smoking gun saying Donald Trump. And they're kind of making this point of what they're saying doesn't line up with the data. We can't reproduce the results. Like, we can't reproduce what's being said about Donald Trump, his offense. We can't reproduce this data. We got our hands on the data, and it seems that they're the only ones who can come up with the results. And saying that the most basic argument here is Trump has this stuff all over the place, and Trump is advertising a bunch of spam. What Cenk Uygur is arguing here is somewhat debunked by The Intercept. And I understand that, again, not everybody is going to see everything every time it comes out. I guess I'm making a point that he has a certain degree of blinders on in regards to Donald Trump, because he really wants Donald Trump out that office. At the very least, anything that comes up with Donald Trump that he can use to hit Trump over the head with, he's going to pick that brick up. He's less caring about whether or not that brick happens to be a brick at all. That's my point. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. So, good on Cal for making this point. And good on The Intercept for nailing this when this came out. Good on The Intercept. The story is at the bottom. I have a few more stories, but let's see who is here. Let's see. Kristen Lawrence. Yeah, David Doe explained KG's actual contribution situation. She has not said she will refuse Super PAC money. Okay, I jumped in the middle. I don't know what that one is. Don't think Cenk had a bias against Debunked article. He just trusted the source at the time since he apparently did not read the article. Let's wait to see if he retracts his talking points on the show. Prez Nois. No, that's fair, man. But come on. He's human. He's just a human being. Like, I'm not hitting him on this. Like, don't misunderstand me. The hit that I'm making here is on the position itself. And I'm making a point that, yes, he does have a bias. He's a human being. Human beings have bias, particularly on things that they really want to be true. Like, look, part of the reason for me inviting Sane Progressive on the show is A, because I like Sane Progressive. But B, yeah, I like everybody else. I have somewhat of a bias on Sanders. And I give a particular point of view on Sanders because that's the view of Sanders that I see. When she comes on the show, she is going to give a contrary view of Bernie Sanders. I may not necessarily like it all, but we can have that out whenever she comes on. The entirety of the show, by the way, would not be on Sanders. But there will be that point where Sanders comes up just as the flow of the argument. I have a bias here. People have biases. She has a bias in regards to her point of view on things. Everybody does. There is this thing where we pull in things to support our particular point of view. It's not the easiest thing in the world to float between different perspectives. The point I'm making here is that Cenk is so ensconced in his perspective that even though he's talking to Cal and he knows Cal is straightforward, Cal tends to be earnest, he blows him off. No, man, no. Most people would stay with the information that they know. So he's not crazy on staying with it. I'm just saying. He's blowing Cal off on this point. I think he does have a bias. His bias is, I don't like Donald Trump. That's his bias. Here's information to hit Trump over the head with. So this is the club. So, yeah, he's a person. He does what everybody else does. I don't think he's going to pull this on the show, by the way. I'd be shocked if he brings this up on the show. He might, but I'd be shocked. Tia Wheeler, there was one particular case that happened in my state, and they got the biggest aspect of it wrong and went 18 different tangents. The interview with Dorr is pretty good. Got to finish it, though. Dorr maintains consistency in his views. DDoS is a kind of cyber attack that the internet is vulnerable to. There's no cheap way to break a DDoS, only complex, expensive ways. Denial of service, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the acronym stands for. Cenk praised Christian Gillibrand for giving lip service about taking money from corporate donors. Christian Hall, you got to give me the link to that, man. You have to give me the link to that. Usually, he's not on board for the corporate donations thing. Regardless of which one I think of him. Usually, he's not on board with the corporate donations thing. So, I need to see the link to that. Let's see. Being dismissive to facts is understandable on Cenk's part. 20 million in guides, his words. Oh, to Mostly Young. Look, I think anybody, if you and I are having a conversation, we're having a debate, and you tell me something, I don't know anybody who just gives up their position in a debate. Like, they're like, okay, you're right, I'm wrong. I don't know anybody who does that. Even if you're buddies with the person. I mean, yes, he's like, no, that's not true. That's not true. I need to be able to attack Donald Trump. He is doing that. So he's being over the top in his just complete denying of it. But I don't necessarily blame him for not necessarily just falling, to Cal's feet and saying, yes, you're right. I don't blame him for that. My issue here is Trump and Russia and the support of Trump and Russia. And I'm trying to hit it in the knees, the thing that's supporting this Trump and Russia thing, because I think this Trump and Russia thing is nonsense, and I think it's dangerous. So even if you were right on all of it, the hysteria is putting us to the brink of war. You're supporting people who, for the most part, is just using this to obfuscate from their own failures. Yeah, I can't be on board with it. I can't be on board with it politically, and I can't be on board with it just from the basics of the results of what you're trying to accomplish. So, Christian Lawrence, progressives are never halls. Okay, I don't know what that means. Cenk's arguments are inconsistent and full of contradictions. Plus, how do you deliver a message matters if you demean and bully others in your tone? They never hear your message. Christian Lawrence, yeah, I agree with that part. They are inconsistent. I mean, he's like, yeah, man, I understand that Trump had things with Saudi Arabia and Turkey. I understand that, but I want to talk about Russia because Russia's the only thing we can get him on. Wait a minute. What is with this, this asymmetric justice? It's like this unreliable justice. This justice that's radical, that's taking the blindfold off. And you can be, I'm going to have justice on this point, but I'm going to ignore this other part. No, you can't do that. Yes, in physical matter reality, you can do it. But I'm saying, if you're being honest, why are you supporting that? They're using justice in a way that's purely trying to advance their aims. They're not going after Saudi Arabia. They're not going after issues with Russia. Those, like Cal said, are easier to declare. Cenk agreed. But he still decided that I want justice to be in a particular direction, and I am perfectly okay with asymmetric justice. Justice that takes the blindfold off and say, I am going to use Russia. Even though I can't prove Russia, I am going to use Russia. I'm going to use Russia. I'm going to ignore the other parts. I'm going to use Russia. I know they're doing this to obfuscate. I know that I can't prove this as a flat fact. I know these things. I know, and I agree with you, that the hysteria on this is somewhat problematic. But I disagree that the hysteria is bringing us closer to war. Fuck reality. I disagree that it's bringing us closer to war. I disagree that the bombing was a real bombing. I believe in Nerf bombs. Do you hear, like, all of this is going towards the argument of why it's okay to have this Trump and Russia stuff. They're Nerf bombs, because if they were real bombs, I would agree with you that the hysteria is bringing us closer to war. I can't agree with you that it's bringing us closer to war, because if I did, then I would understand that the Trump and Russia thing was problematic in political terms and internationally political terms. But I don't want to admit to that, so they're Nerf bombs. They're Nerf bombs. They're not real bombs. Just like the Nerf bombs we dropped on the soldiers that killed, or you can say murdered, 100 Syrians. Were those Nerf bombs? Was the fact that Russia was a part of this particular thing, meaning there may have been Russian soldiers that have died, is that also inconsequential to you? I'm just saying, this argument of Trump and Russia is immensely problematic. I don't care if you're going against Trump. Don't be a hypocrite if you're going to do it. Don't be inconsistent. Meaning, yes, we supported Hillary Clinton. Yes, there's an FBI informant right now that's pointing the finger to collusion with Clinton and Russia. But no, I don't want to talk about that. No, if Hillary Clinton got elected, we would not be talking about that. But we're talking about it with Trump. That is massively inconsistent. How can you support one person who has the same or similar entanglements, but the other person is okay? Come on, man. That's massively inconsistent. And then he's like, oh, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yes, I understand. You believe it's a big deal. You should at least prove it first before taking us in this hysterical path towards the brink of war. And to act like, you know, people are being hysterical and hyperbolic when they're talking about nuclear war. Explain to me, Cenk. If there's a conflict with Russia, we shoot down one of their jets. We shoot down a few of their jets. We kill many of their soldiers. You believe that the guy who's riding bareback on a horse, this masculinity, this guy who you consider to be a dictator and a horrible person, he may be a horrible person. Okay, fair enough. That has nothing to do with us. That has nothing to do with us. That has nothing to do with us positioning us against that guy who you consider a horrible person. What affects Russia affects Russia. We should have nothing to do with this situation. You're bringing us closer to the brink of war with your particular policy decisions. What do you believe that the position and the political pressures of Russia would be if we shoot down multiple jets? We shoot down one of their jets. We kill many of their soldiers. Do you believe they would pull back from that situation? Do you believe that Russia would be alone in any kind of conflict with us on this? Meaning, do you believe China would also support Russia in this pursuit? Do you believe that the other countries we've been antagonizing, like Syria and North Korea, will support Russia in this pursuit? Do you believe Turkey may even support Russia in this pursuit? Pakistan? It is not hyperbolic to look at the contours of this, particularly when you're taking it from the context of something like a World War I or World War II. World War I started in a ridiculous premise. One person gets shot. Everything tumbles into this world conflict. You're acting as if this can't take place, and you're acting as if the chances of this are minimal. I don't think the chances of this are minor. Not with the way the United States is acting. It's one thing if you had somebody who was politically savvy in that office. You have a maniac. You have a fucking maniac. John F. Kennedy might have been able to get us out of the contours of war after getting us in almost a war. Do you believe Donald Trump still has that same finesse and that same skill and political acumen? If we're killing their soldiers, it is bringing us to a brink of war. If they're losing a ground war, if the Soviet Union is losing a ground war, do you believe they'll allow their country to be conquered? Or do you believe they're going to launch nuclear weapons? If the United States is losing in a ground war, do you believe that the United States will not launch? For that matter, do you not believe that the United States may even do a pre-launch, saying fuck all with the ground part? This is not minor. This is a major fucking deal. Your politics, your in-country politics, are creating a problem internationally. That's the point I'm making here. That's the point I'm making. Let's see. Cardinal, it jumped on me. I'm not gonna say that. Let's see. The Russian bot. Somebody's going out. Jay Scott, TYT is sold out like Vice News. I don't know if he sold out, but certainly he certainly believes in the system. If that's the way it is, like this argument between the reformers versus the people who want to change things. They believe that functioning within the system is the way to go about it, and you have this other system that believes no, functioning in the system is the problem itself. You need to pull yourself out of that political apparatus and stop supporting that particular party. Cenk's not there. I mean, many of these lefty shows are just not there. They're in this idea of working within the contours of the system itself, not realizing that the problem is that you're working within the contours of that particular system. If you're believing that you need to vote for Hillary Clinton, you're working within the contours of that system. And I don't think that's a good strategy, personally. I think it's experientially true that it's a bad strategy. Let's see. JRGJ, when will Debbie be on? I have some definite questions for her. I don't watch her show because she kicks people off her chats when they mention MMT. I thought Debbie was going to be on today. I thought at 5 o'clock she was going to be on. I don't know if she forgot. I don't know if there was some miscommunication in regards to us arranging it. I don't know. I thought she was going to be on today. So when I talk to her again, I will see if she's still coming on, and if so, when. She may have just forgot, or there may have just been a miscommunication. So I have additional content that I'm going to do in a few, so I will be back in about 10 minutes. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, everyone.